Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Chiefs. Welcome, Chiefs Kingdom. This is the Locked On Network, whether you're listening to us on audio in the normal podcast or one of your new viewers here on YouTube. I hope that you guys are doing well. We have a great show for you. We're going to talk about the fact that Chiefs didn't get Julio Jones. A lot of rumors about they may not have even tried much. Come back with what is the fact that Bashaud Breeland is now a Viking mean for this defense. And wrap up with a couple of things that are meaningful out there in the Twitter sphere that we need to be paying attention to as we come back. We have a chock full show for you. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics, and your host at RGR Football as well.
And I'm Chris Clark. Thank you for listening. We really do appreciate it. And thank you for all the new iTunes reviews we've been getting as well.
It's going to be fun. I think we need to dig into it. But first, welcome to the show.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
So old Julio didn't come to town, but he got out of Atlanta. Breaking news on Sunday, folks. Julio Jones is going to be traded to the Tennessee Titans. I haven't seen it actually finalized, but it seems to be a done deal. Welcome to the AFC, just not in Kansas City.
Yeah, I saw it finalized. At least the Titans have announced it, so I would say it's pretty final at this point. I never thought that the chance was really going to be very high he was coming to Kansas City. So this doesn't shock me at all. I'm really curious to see what it happens, how it affects the Titans. I do think that they're a better team, obviously, but in my opinion, they can't use Julio the way that would benefit him the most. I don't think Ryan Tannehill has the arm to take advantage of the deep speed that some other QBs in the AFC do.
You know, maybe that's true. I think Tannehill will sneak up on you every now and then. And quite frankly, I think it's more the bigger plays that the receivers make themselves. We know how strong Julio is at the catch point, what he can do after. I think, honestly, this is a fairly scary tandem with him and A.J. Brown because I think it takes the pressure off of Tannehill because they can do things once they receive the ball. This is going to be tough, specifically for the Chiefs, because you can't have your, physical, tough corner and then a speed guy that maybe is a little bit less physical or something like that. You got to have a pair that can go toe-to-toe with this team, and it's not just about Derrick Henry anymore.
Yeah, I think that's going to be concerning, but the question is how are they going to make that offense work? They still don't really have an answer at tight end, which obviously when you have two-star wide receivers like that, you don't need a great guy, but they're going to have to figure that part of it out. And then you start looking at how Julio is going to fit in that offense. I still wonder if they're going to be a pass first or a run first offense or not. With Julio and A.J. Brown, you'd think you would switch it up, but new offensive coordinator there, so there are a lot of questions.
I think the nice thing about that is that you don't have to do anything. This is what I've talked about in years past. You guys have heard me whine about there's not enough run game. Well, this is why, because right now we don't have a clue whether they're going to be pass first or not, or they're going to try to run Derrick like they have in years past and really grind first, go play action off of it. I think this opens up what they can do because defense have to prepare all the way around and on both sides of the field now.
No, they're absolutely going to have to do that, and I do think it's going to be something that is going to be fun to watch. Kansas City does play Tennessee this year before the playoffs regardless, so something to watch when that game happens and how Kansas City is able to adjust.
I think this makes that – I don't know. Would you make it a favorite to maybe get to the championship game or something like that? I think this bolsters their offense quite a bit.
It does bolster their offense quite a bit. The question is are both the receivers going to stay healthy? A.J. Brown's been hurt in the past. Julio Jones was hurt a lot last year. If both stay healthy, that changes their offense completely.
Yeah, that's true. I'm looking forward to see how the Chiefs choose to match up. I think this puts them now drastically in front of some other teams. I still feel like Indy can make a push, but I think in the AFC, I think the Browns are probably still pushing the Ravens. That's a nice battle there. But now you have the South that looks like it's going to be a beat you up kind of thing too, and it's not just about Henry. Would you still give them the edge right now in that particular division?
I think I do. I'm not sold on Carson Wentz, so until he proves that he can actually be the QB that the Colts would want him to be, then I'm going to think that Tennessee is going to be the team to beat. So for right now, I still think it is going to be Tennessee.
So that gives you, with the expanded playoff, I think it's going to be very interesting to see who makes where, when, who's the wild cards, and how much do they beat up on each other. I have to think right now, Tennessee's got to be the favorite. I don't know what BetOnline AG is doing or the Vegas books are doing with like who's got the advantage now, but I'd put Tennessee out front. That brings it back to me about what are the matchups going to be for the Chiefs. Again, we always know that a first round seed to get the bye is always important. But now things get a little bit tougher. I think if you're going to be a division winner, you're probably in good shape because now you can avoid that heavy run game that might beat you up early, but you still have to account for the pass against these Titans.
Yeah, you're going to, and I do think that it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that offense throughout the season. Like I said, it's going to be a big question mark how they're going to get things adjusted, but they've got him in time for training camp, so they're going to get all that figured out before the season starts, and you're going to have preseason games this year, so that's going to help too.
Now, a lot of folks are complaining that the Chiefs weren't in it. According to Peter Schrager, they weren't very in it at all. You can complain about that all you want, but the truth is that was a choice on their part. They could do a number of things if they had wanted to. But I got to, for me, come back to the 32-year-old thing.
Well, yeah, it comes back to that. It comes back to, yes, you can. I've seen people actually send me a message on Twitter that the Chiefs could have made it work with the cap. And yes, they could have. Tennessee is in a spot right now where they have less cap space than Kansas City does. So that's before the Julio Jones trade. Mm-hmm. So they're going to have to make some moves. They're going to have to make some adjustments. Kansas City has already pretty much done all that with all their players that they can. So they were already in a position where they really don't have the easy contract restructures that Tennessee has right now. And that makes a big difference. Tennessee is probably going to restructure Ryan Tannehill, and then they'll be under the cap with the Julio Jones trade. Kansas City can't do that. They've already taken advantage of the Patrick Mahomes contract, so they can't really do that this year. And you're sitting in a spot where, yeah, you can say it's cash all you want, but I have a really hard time believing that the Chiefs, after being in the Super Bowl the past 2 years and the AFC Championship all of the past 3 years, are really going to be struggling for cash right now.
Yeah, I have to agree. This is a thing that changes the complexion, but not the destination for the Chiefs and how they have to go about it. One thing that does change the destination and how they're going to get there is their defensive backfield. We have some news on Bashaud Breeland that we really need to touch on coming up next. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your sports action. Football might be over, but the NBA, college basketball, and NHL are going to be back in full swing, and BetOnline even covers award shows, reality TV, all kinds of stuff. Real-time updated odds and props on almost anything you can imagine. BetOnline has you covered for all the news, scores, and odds. It's the best way to place your bets, and it's free to sign up. Head over to the website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. The promo code's locked on for BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. Julio's a big name. We know that. I think the next name that the Chiefs Kingdom has been watching has been Bashaud Breeland, especially after Tyrann Mathieu said, we'd love to have him back. Let's see if we can work it out, that kind of stuff. Well, it didn't. He must have gotten a better offer from the Minnesota Vikings because he signed with them. What does that impact first and foremost for you?
Well, I think that there's a lot of people that have been talking about, Kansas City's really going to be hurting this year. And I do think that it's possible they will be hurting. The one thing I will say, and this is what really makes it interesting, is Breeland has only signed, 4 straight 1-year contracts with the teams that he's going to be with. That says a lot about what teams think about his skill set to me, because that says you're in a situation where you don't want to bet on the guy long term, so you're not going to give him more than 1 year. And to me, he's on the wrong side of the age range, so you would think that it's going to start falling off at some point in the near future. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year, but I understand that you want to go young, and Kansas City has definitely done that with a whole bunch of corners that are all under 25 right now. And you're in a situation where if Breeland was going to come back, the question is was it going to be at the right number for Kansas City? And more than likely, he wasn't going to be able to make $4 million, which is what he's allowed to make in Minnesota. So, it doesn't shock me that they're going this direction. I mean, we've already kind of talked about the depth at CB on this team, and they're all under 25 except for Breeland. So you have to think that they feel very comfortable with the room that they have.
I have to think so too. The number one question I get is, Why hasn't he resigned here? And I always tell folks, it's about the contract. He's 29 years old. He needed to get the best contract he can get monetarily for what will be the next phase of his life, his post NFL career, right?
Yep.
I just find it interesting that despite taking what you have to think is a better deal than what the Chiefs were probably offering, I'm guessing it was in the one year $3 million range kind of thing, like we've seen from them before. So a little bit extra money, but still only a 1 year for his long-term contract. I don't know that he got what he wanted. And
I'm sure he didn't.
He's going to be back on the market next year.
Right. And you have to wonder whether or not he's going to have a market next year. I really think that this is what it is boiling down to with Breeland and everything else is they just don't believe, teams don't believe he has the long-term availability that some of these other corners. And you also have to look at it from Kansas City's perspective. Breeland had something close to 25 pass interference penalties or pass penalties of some sort over the last 2 years.
True.
That doesn't sound like a ton, but when you start looking at it on a per game basis, you're almost flagged every single game he played. That is a big deal.
Yeah, that's like 3/4 of a flag every week. That's
right.
That's getting there. I mean, I agree. I think that they wanted to get younger. They feel that they have the stable to do it. There is a little bit of a risk. I will say
definitely
that.
A risk. Yeah.
The question for me comes to the leadership in the room, in the cornerback room specifically. Breeland said some nice things on social media, thanking the kingdom. And I think it's also interesting, folks, if you pay attention to when the players make announcements like that, like the fact that he's been out of camp and unsigned for this entire time, he didn't actually say goodbye to Kansas City until he signed another contract. So it was always in his head to possibly come back.
But he said so.
Yeah. And I think he shouted out the coaching staff, Coach Madison in particular. Coach Madison's the guy who's got, I think, the biggest job here. And he is the coach that gets affected the most because they would like to have a veteran. And quite frankly, I think they'd like to have Bashaud Breeland when it comes up to playing those Titans again, now that you've got another monster receiver on the outside.
Definitely could, but I think that they're going to be looking at running with different ways and different people through that defensive backfield. So I get what you're saying, and I'm not disagreeing. They probably would like Breeland back there, but obviously the money wasn't good enough. And obviously Kansas City didn't feel like he was worth the almost $4 million that he got from Minnesota. And like I said, it's going to be incentive laden, but Kansas City's not going to give up that kind of money for Breeland after giving him $3 million last year.
Yeah, it makes things difficult. That creep. I think when we see the cap go back up, I think we're going to be out of the woods there, but I think that definitely played its part. What they do now is rely on that young talent. I think the interesting thing with Travaris, we're not being in camp right now, still is, again, the oldest guy, the most snap experience on this roster at the moment. I think they're going to have to rely on him or do some kind of other acquisition because I don't think if Travaris can't lead the room from a veteran standpoint, they got to have something in there is my thought.
Yeah, and you could look at and see maybe they're going to bring somebody in for training camp. Who knows? There's probably some guys out there that they could bring in, but I don't think they're going to have an older CB on the roster this year. So it's only going to be for camp, and then who knows how much of an impact that's really going to have.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Impact's what we got to get down to, and there's a couple other things floating around. I think we're going to get into some interesting Twitterverse reactions here coming up next. We've been telling you about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market for a while now. Built Bar is the amazing low-calorie, low-sugar, high-protein, high-fiber, amazing tasting protein bar with 100% chocolate on all the bars. And we recognize it's been hard to keep up with the brackets and all the new flavors, but let's remember, when it all comes said and done, there are a couple things that really stand out, like cookies and cream with 17 grams of protein at 130 calories, or almond coconut, which is one of my favorites still. And you can get a serious discount over at BuiltBar.com by using the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 50% off your next order. That's the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. The chain stores have different price tiers for professional mechanics versus us do-it-yourselfers, but RockAuto.com's prices are the same for everybody, and they're reliably low.
RockAuto.com always offers the lowest prices possible rather than changing their prices based on whims like the airlines do. RockAuto.com is for everybody and does not require a membership or an account login. RockAuto.com is a family business serving auto parts customers online for 20 years. Go to RockAuto.com to shop for auto and body parts from hundreds of manufacturers. The RockAuto.com catalog is unique and remarkably easy to navigate. Quickly see all the parts available for your vehicle and choose brands, specifications, and prices you prefer. Best of all, prices at RockAuto.com are always reliably low and the same for professionals and do-it-yourselfers. Why spend twice the money for the same parts? Go to RockAuto.com now. See all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices. All the parts your car will ever need. RockAuto.com.
So it's not Tuesday, but we might as well talk about what's going on, what the reaction are to some of these issues. I know you have a couple you want to hit.
Well, I've got one that I want to get into here in a second, and we will. But the one I want to address right now, because this is actually coming out with the Julio Jones trade. Dov Cliveman, I believe is how you pronounce it, talked about how Tannehill and Patrick Mahomes are very similar in their numbers, and that when you look at the numbers, and obviously it was a chart, that Tannehill's numbers are better than Mahomes. He's going to have a lot of people from Chiefs Kingdom trying to argue with that, and I get it. I guess really what my point would be is that he also went into the fact that he said that Mahomes is more talented, and he decided he wanted to use quotation marks around talented.
Oh, really?
Are you looking for a fight? Because Chiefs Kingdom is not going to have that. I'm just going to say that right now.
I want to know two things. I want to know average depth at target, and I want to know who got more yak yards, because I'm guessing that Ryan Tannehill, if his stats are close, it's because his pass catchers did the work for him.
And I wouldn't disagree with you on that at all. I'm sitting here looking at it and going, yeah, I get why you're trying to make an argument, but at the same time, I think you're barking up the wrong tree here. Is Tannehill good? Yes. I've never said he's not. But here are the numbers that is in this stat. QB rating, Tannehill's beaten Patrick Mahomes since he's taken over the Titans with 24 starts with a QB rating of 114 to Mahomes' 105.9. Tannehill has 6,080 yards. Mahomes has 6,983 yards. Tannehill has 61 TDs. Patrick has 56 TDs. Both of them have thrown 10 interceptions and a completion percentage of 67.7 for Tannehill and 66.4 for Mahomes. I would agree with you completely. I'd like to know average depth of the target. Lots of different stats that I would like to know when you're looking at that specific stat. But, he came out and tweeted, people who are defending Mahomes because of this tweet are completely missing that the point of the tweet is to simply say Ryan Tannehill is underrated and people shouldn't call him a bum or average. Obviously, Mahomes is more talented. The tweet has zero to do with it.
Come on. The tweet has done exactly what he wanted in the fact that we, of all people, are talking about it.
Yeah, and I get it. I mean, you say what you want. I'm not trying to say Tannehill's a bad quarterback. He's not. He has played so much better in Tennessee than I ever thought he was going to. I do think that Derrick Henry helps him because it puts a lot of people in the box, so he doesn't have to throw into multiple, double coverages a lot. So I do think that helps him. And now you're adding Julio Jones to the mix. I just don't think it was the best fit for Julio Jones. The best fit for Julio Jones is going to go to a QB who can throw the ball 65 yards in the air, and that's going to be Rodgers or Allen or, Mahomes or maybe Stafford. I mean, there's a couple other guys. Kyler Murray probably is on that list as well. There's a couple of guys that can throw the ball that far. I just don't see Tannehill being that guy. And that's not really his skill set or his strength.
I wouldn't necessarily see him being that guy either, but I disagree that that's how you maximize Julio. At 32 years old, I don't know that you want him running nines all day long. You know what I mean? Like, hit him on the deep ends, hit him on the slants. Like, I think that part of the game is going to be good for him. And I will say this about Ryan Tannehill in general, and everyone back in Kansas City who plays in the the Dynasty League. We still call it Trent Green is God is the name of our Dynasty League. I've been in it for 21 right? I've been in it for 21 years now. It's the only league I still play. And all you guys that play me every year, you know that I've won that league back-to-back years on the back of Ryan Tannehill paired with Patrick Mahomes. So it's that argument's there, like in terms of especially of fantasy, like he's putting up good numbers. Does he have the same raw quote? I don't know why you quote talent, but no. But the end result is still wins. It's still yardage. It's still points. So hey, take it and run.
Well, and when you start talking about completion percentage, okay, sure, Tannehill's completion percentage is better. Okay, Mahomes has thrown for almost 1,000 more yards. I mean, I don't know how you justify talking about completion percentage when you start looking at the yards difference.
Now, Tyreek will put up a ton of yak, and so will Kels too,
Yep.
right? So, like, maybe the yak percentage-wise is close, but again, because of that, I mean, an extra K is a big difference.
Yeah. No, and I will say, I understand what you're saying about you not needing to put Julio on all nines all the time. I get that. But he wanted to go to a quarterback that could throw the bomb. He wanted to go to a QB that was going to be able to put the ball up and have him go get it. Because honestly, that's one of the things he is best at is going and fighting for the ball. And I'm sorry, but Tannehill isn't that guy. And I get that he didn't have a choice where he was going. That's something that's only the Falcons had a choice in. Mm-hmm. So I just don't think it's the best fit in that regard. I'm not saying he's not going to play well. I'm not saying it's not going to be a good fit overall. I just don't think it's the best fit for the ability to throw the ball up and let him go get it. Because the other side of that with Tannehill is how many times do you see him throwing into double coverage? He's not that guy either.
Right. Caution is a good part of his game as well. It's like the old Alex Smith argument, right? Like you can't get what he won't take advantage of.
Yep.
That's fine. That said, I think it's a decent landing spot. Is it optimal? Probably not.
Right.
But I mean, would you love to see him back over in Los Angeles with old Stafford? Sure. But hey, presidents don't come on trees like that. The Chiefs are going to have to go through and beat the Titans with Julio.
Yeah, and like I said before, it's going to be a big question mark of how they're going to get that offense to go together because they have now 2 stud wide receivers and they have an obviously stud running back. So how are you going to get all that to mesh? I obviously think that they can do it and they're going to be able to be very good if they want to be. But the question is how do they make them all fit together and how do you get to the point where you're feeding the pass game enough to get it to where your run game is efficient as well. So, I do think that the Titans are going to be a very good offense. It's just going to be interesting to see how they get it to mesh over this year, especially with a new offensive coordinator. Because don't forget, their offensive coordinator last year is now in Atlanta as the head coach.
Mm-hmm. Hey, stranger things happen, right? That familiarity always helps. So I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be interesting. I will investing in Tannehill one more time for my fantasy needs. But is there any other topics that we need to hit from the old windmill?
I think that there are some more topics. Maybe we can get to them tomorrow. I want to spend some time on one of them specifically.
Oh, that sounds like fun, folks. We will be back tomorrow. And evidently, we're going to get into some of these other things. We have a lot going on. Last week of OTAs are coming. We have minicamp, mandatory minicamp coming. We will have updates for you all week long. We appreciate you hanging out with us today, and we'll catch you tomorrow.